Welcome to Outmaneuver. I'm Faith, and I'm here with the deck tech for Fennec Shand. This deck is all about ambushing, and Fennec is a great way in order to do that. Well, Fennec is not deployed. She has an ability, which is one resource, and you exhaust her, and then you can play a unit that costs 4 or less from your hand. You still have to pay its cost, though. You can give that unit ambush. Everyone today is running ECL, it seems like, if they are running an epic action base, and Fennec Shand lets you do that same thing, giving one of your units ambush every time you want to pay that one resource. She deploys at 5 resources, and when she deploys, she's a 4/4. The other benefit of when she's deployed is instead of having to pay that one resource and exhaust her, she's able to just give all your units that cost 4 or less ambush for free. This is a great way in order to deal with your opponent's board, and because of that, we're going to be giving her Petranaki Arena as her base. It's a 26 health base, and it has an effect that each leader unit you control gets +1/+0. Well, our deck is going to have some ability to control the board with ambush. We're also going to want to be beating our opponent pretty quickly, and so this extra damage for Fennec, making her now a 5/4, is going to hopefully make her a pretty effective way to deal damage to the base and a threat for our opponents. Let's look at some of the units that we have in this deck. On our turn 1 plays, we've got, to start us off, Greedo. The interesting thing about Greedo with Fennec Shand is that Greedo is, with the ability, becomes a 2-cost 3/1 ambush with his regular when defeated effect. We're already playing a 3/1 for 2 ambush in Cunning, and so this gives us the same thing with that added benefit of the when defeated effect. Looking at some other turn 1 plays we have, Spark of Rebellion, in my opinion, is always a great card to play if we need to. It lets us take a card from our opponent's hand that we find most threatening and give us that information in order to disrupt our opponent's game plan. Up next, we've got the new R2-D2 from Twilight of the Republic. This card is a 2/4 for 2, Cunning Heroism. That's, when played, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and reveal it. You put the other cards on the bottom of your deck. And after you reveal that card, you draw the card. What's great about R2 is that R2 is going to really allow you card selection. So you're overall not going to go up any cards because, well, you draw a card, you also have to, you discard a card, you draw a card, so that evens out. But it will let you select one of the cards you need. This can be really helpful later on in the game when you need that certain card in order to get to over the top. This will help you get that. Up next, we've got Jar Jar Binks. Now, this is a card that costs 2. It's double Cunning, like our deck is, and it's a 2/3. On attack, deal 2 damage to a random unit or base. Obviously, this is a card which is going to cause a bit of chaos. You're not going to know if it's going to hit your base, if it's going to hit their base, if it's going to hit one of your units or their units. But we're going to get that on attack trigger as soon as turn 2, either if we play Jar Jar turn 1, or if we use Fennec's ability to give Jar Jar ambush. So what we're really trying to do is going to try to trigger these on-attack triggers when we can. Jar Jar is one of those units which, if your opponent is at 2 life left in the game, you're able to just give this unit ambush if they have a ground unit, and hopefully it's able to hit their base. And maybe it hits something else. The interesting thing is it can also hit an opponent's space units. So this is something that you might not notice at first because he's a unit on the ground, but it is able to hit any target. So it can also allow you to target things which normally you might not be able to reach or reach as easily. Looking at our last turn 1 play, we've got a Phase 1 Clone Trooper. We've only got 2 of these right now, and this is a card that could definitely change as we maybe get more Twilight of the Republic spoilers, or if we get something else. You can also, in this spot, put the security battle droid, the 3/1 Sentinel for 2. That's a Cunning card. I currently have the Phase 1 Clone Trooper because before seeing how Twilight is going to affect the meta, if we see a meta with a lot of 1-drops, especially a lot of droid tokens, then that security guard droid becomes a lot worse, and this Phase 1 Clone Trooper can be a little bit more exciting. The 3 power is something that I think is important because we are going to want to use Fennec's Ambush when able, and just being able to deal 3 damage to one of your opponent's units could be pretty strong. We're now going to turn to our 3-cost cards, and our first up, we've got Ezra Bridger. Ezra is a 3-cost, 3/4, that has when this unit completes an attack, you can look at the top card of your deck, you can either play it, discard it, or keep it on top. Now, because we're going to be paying 3 for Ezra, or we're paying 3+1 if we want to ambush Ezra out, we may not be able to use the effect to play the card that we see on top. We may, if we want to, if it's a good enough card to play. But we might also be using that Ezra's ability just to look at our top card to see what's coming up or to discard it. So in order to kind of filter our draws a little bit. Ezra's a pretty strong unit, a 3/4 for 3, which can be helpful. But it's not as offensive as some of the other 3-cost cards that we're going to talk about. And so I would consider Ezra on potentially the way out of this deck. Up next, we've got our 3/4 for 3 space unit, the Millennium Falcon. It's a cunning and heroism unit. Millennium Falcon enters ready, which could be good. And we do have to pay, though, 1 resource at every turn in order to keep it on the field, or else it does return to our hand. Now, this can be a benefit because it can remove the damage from our Millennium Falcon, but it is something we're going to have to note, especially if we're going to want to pay that resource cost for Fennec to give the ambush. So Fennec and Millennium Falcon here don't combo the best with their ability. However, Millennium Falcon is still a great card for a heroism cunning deck. That's why it's there. However, a card which does combo well with Fennec's ambush ability can be the Rogue Operative. The Rogue Operative is a 3-cost, 2/4 Saboteur Raid 2, meaning that Rogue Operative is going to attack for 4 damage, and it's going to be able to bypass any shields or bypass any sentinels as well. This could be a really great card for just dealing some damage on an enemy's unit, taking them out where they're not expecting it. Up next, we've got Bodhi Rook, and that's a 3-cost double cunning unit. That's a 3/3 Imperial Rebel. When you can look at an opponent's hand and discard a non-unit card from it. This can be like Spark of Rebellion, a way to kind of deal with some of your opponent's cards in your hand. However, it will be targeting non-units. It can still, though, get the ambush from Fennec. So a 3/3 for 3 isn't a great body, but getting that other bonus effect will let you take away some of your opponent's threats. We do have it at 2 right now, but it is in that double cunning sphere, and so we're kind of taking advantage of that. After that, we've got Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's a 3-cost cunning heroism 3/4 Force Jedi Republic. And if you have less units than your opponent, when you play Ahsoka, she's just going to inherently get ambush, which is going to be good because that will save your Fennec from having to be used to give one of your other units ambush. And if you do have the same or more units than your opponent, like the other cards, you can just pay the extra 1 and still give her ambush. She does have an effect like the Millennium Falcon, the 2 legendary cunning heroism cards that we have, which can let you bring her back to your hand and any upgrades that would be on her. This deck doesn't have any upgrades inherently, and so we won't be worrying about that. Going to our 4-cost cards, we've got some spicy double cunning cards, and first up will be Cunning itself, the namesake of the aspect. A 4-cost double cunning card that lets you do 2 of any order of 4 of these options. It can give one of your units +4/+0, which can help you close out a game. It can exhaust 2 units, so prevent your opponent from either dealing damage to your base or trading off your units. You can make an opponent discard a card at random from their hand, or you can return a non-leader with 4 or less power to its owner's hand. So this can let you, potentially, if your opponent has 3 units, tap 2 of them and return 1 of them to their hand. As Twilight's introducing tokens, you can return a token, which would then effectively get rid of the token. You can give your units extra power in order to win the game quicker, or you can disrupt your opponents even more and then lose a card in their hand. One of the big winners of using Fennec as your leader is the next card here, Strafing Gunship. Strafing Gunship's a 4-cost, 3/4 cunning space unit, which can attack units in the ground arena. And when it does, the defender gets -2, -0 for that attack. And so why this strafing gunship can be effective with Fennec is normally you play the gunship, your opponent's going to expect it coming. This is, though, a great way to get some damage in on those ground units if you need, because they're not going to expect it. And strafing gunship can really play fast and loose because he's getting that -2. The defender is getting -2 attack when they're dealing combat with the strafing gunship. The strafing gunship is going to have a little bit more life and going to be able to make multiple attacks. And so getting that first attack off can be a really nice way in order to use it effectively, because it's not taking chip damage from another space unit, and it's able to really disrupt your opponent's ground arena. One of the cards that I was most excited for in Twilight is Chancellor Palpatine, who is a 4-cost double cunning card in this new set, Twilight of the Republic. He's a 2/6 Republic official, and he's going to help you if you're going to have token units. So that's going to be our key. Now, when we're looking at Chancellor Palpatine, each token unit you create enters play ready. When you attack with Chancellor Palpatine, if a unit left play this phase, you can create a trooper token. Now, normally when you just play Chancellor Palpatine, he's not going to do anything immediately when he hits the board. However, if you do have either Fennec out, or you have her not deployed, but you have that 5th resource, you are able to use Chancellor Palpatine to attack right away. This will require you to have defeated a unit earlier if you want to create that clone trooper token. So you can't have just an empty board and then have Chancellor Palpatine come in and create a token. That on attack trigger does trigger before any damage is dealt. And so Chancellor Palpatine, even if he defeats a unit, won't then retroactively create the clone trooper token. However, if before he attacked during that phase, you removed a unit or any kind of way that a unit left play that phase, then you'll create that clone trooper token. And because Chancellor Palpatine's effect, it will then, when it does create, enter play ready. So this is a great way to get an attack in with your Fennec, making Chancellor Palpatine have ambush, and then creating a 2/2 readied clone trooper token. So that's kind of a neat play, something that I think is really exciting about having Fennec as your leader. And I think one of the most effective ways to use Chancellor Palpatine, because he will be able to create a token right away, and hopefully every other turn going forward as well. Since we're in double yellow, another common double cunning card that we've seen in set 1 is Cantina Bouncer. Cantina Bouncer is a 3/5 fringe unit with a when played, you may return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. This is going to be a great way to remove any potential sentinels your opponent might have, as well as any other big cards or a card in an arena that you can't deal with. You're just going to be able to slow them down because next turn they'll have to play them ready. From this point going forward, you won't be able to use Fennec on any of these units. However, because they're all going to cost over 5. However, they will still have effects that can be helpful, and most of them are still already going to have ambush. This Cantina Bouncer is actually one of the only cards in this deck which will not be able to have inherently or gain ambush. However, still a card worth using to have a little bit of control if you need it. Up next, we have Plo Koon, another new card from Twilight. It's a 5-cost Cunning Heroism 3/4 that has ambush inherently on him, and Coordinate Raid 3. The ability to have a 6/6 with ambush is very strong, something that has been very helpful. And what I really like about having to use Coordinate, which can be difficult, is that on the turn you deploy your leader, you are able to have at least the unit attacking, or like for one of the units that are using Coordinate, and your leader as a second one. So you really only need one unit going into turn 5, deploying your leader, and then attacking with Plo Koon to get that raid 3. Probably one of the most important, we can almost call them like lords of the deck, would be Emphas Nest, which is a 6-cost Cunning 5/4 Underworld with ambush. And then because almost all of our units are going to have ambush, what's great about Emphas Nest is that Emphas Nest is going to give a friendly unit that's attacking with ambush, that when the friendly unit attacks, the defender is going to get -3, -0. if we're attacking with an ambush, with a unit with ambush. So, as I said, every unit in this deck either has ambush built in or can gain ambush, except for Cantina Bouncer. And so having Infest Nest on the board will just make sure that they are all going to stay alive longer. Fennec Shand is our leader, but we also have the Fennec Shand unit, which is a 7-cost Cunning 4/6 with ambush as well. On attack, you can deal 1 damage to the defender if it's a unit, and for each different cost among cards in your discard. For each different cost among cards in your discard. So this card is going to be can be difficult to get a massive payoff, because maybe you're going to have a bunch of 2-cost cards in your discard, or I often find 2 and 3 cost. So you're not maybe getting a ton of damage, but as you are able to discard with R2, you might be able to get one of those numbers that you don't normally have in your discard pile, which can then make this Fennec Shand's attack even stronger. Particularly with her, you're going to want to be able to defeat the defender before either of them have to deal damage to each other. So if they have 3 life, the best thing with Fennec Shand is if you can attack and have 3 of those different costs in your graveyard. So if you have a Jar Jar in your graveyard, an Ahsoka, and Chancellor Palpatine, that'd be the 3 damage necessary to defeat them before they have to deal any combat damage to each other. We also have a 1 of Millennium Falcon from the second set. This Millennium Falcon is a 6-cost Cunning Heroism card. It's a 5/5. If you play this unit from your hand, it gains ambush. It also has a smuggle cost of 6, so the same as the regular cost. And smuggle lets you play it from the resource row. The benefit, obviously, here being that if you play it from your hand, it gains ambush, but you can also store it for later on in the game. Both of these can be good, and another way for you to get ambush with the Falcon. And our last card today is Han Solo, Reluctant Hero, 7-cost, 6/6 with ambush, and while attacking, this unit deals combat damage before the defender. 6 power is a lot, and you're going to be able to defeat a lot of things before they'll even be able to attack you back. A 6/6 stat line is pretty big, so this is definitely our top end of our deck. But again, a great way we're going to be able to just remove things because that he's going to hit first. In the sideboard, I have listed 1 of cards. These are just some options that I've kind of thought of. So if you like more combat tricks, you might try Shoot First. If you want some blinking, because your guys have some of your later games have ambush inherently, they may benefit from just entering play and getting to attack again at full life. Bamboozle is a way if you think you might need a little bit more control. If you're unsure about how tokens are going to interact in this new set, Clear the Field can be beneficial. Something like Great Squadron 8 Y-Wing can be another way to have an on-attack trigger if you feel that's important. DJ and Tech, I think, as always, any kind of deck with Cunning Heroism has the potential to run these cards. So if you want to run that more into the deck, you can. And Chewbacca could be a way to protect Fennec if you're finding that when she deploys, she's very vulnerable to attacks. So Chewbacca can be a unit there to protect her. Political Pressure is a card which, it's a new card. I'm not sure how well it's going to play, but you do get to make your opponent either discard a card or create 2 battle droid tokens. This can be interesting with Palpatine because those droids could enter readied. However, in that case, they're probably going to discard the card. So I'm not sure yet on how effective Political Pressure is going to be. Overall, this deck is just made to try to get some interesting attack triggers off. It's trying to use Fennec with some fun cards and trying to really use that effect to just get a bunch of cards with ambush. The early game, we're going to try to maybe control the board if we need to. And then the later game, we're going to try to use our big units and we're going to try to win the game with them. Fennec as well with the Patronaki Arena is going to help us deal that last bit of damage. So we still have to wait and see. I'm recording this on October 17th, which is the Wednesday. We're hearing that spoiler season will end on Friday in a couple days. We still have about 70 more cards that may be spoiled from Twilight, so we'll have to see if any of those will make this deck any better. But I hope you guys enjoyed this deck preview here. If you have any comments, let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.